Welcome to Charts Today. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Monday, the 27th of June, comes to you from London. And hope you had a great weekend. If you haven't already read it, The Economist, the Energy Quarterly, is absolutely a must-read if you're involved in the energy industry. Really, really good. And I'm often asked about the fundamentals, and the reality is the fundamentals will work in the long run, but they don't necessarily help you trade these markets shorter, medium term. So that's a really key aspect of just remembering the technical analysis tends to be better for short-term trading, and the fundamentals in the very long term will often be right. That doesn't, of course, mean that we don't look at charts over the long term, but the fundamentals don't necessarily help you trade it. And interestingly, we're seeing quite a few red alerts coming in this morning. These news alerts can be generated off your Bloomberg, off your Icon, off your Trayport, whatever feeds you're running into Updata. You can generate these news alerts from those data services. And we see here on TTF, for example, we've got a new upside target on the 1 minute chart. That was post my reports out this morning. So the daily report we had at that stage, and then the weekly report, and some really interesting changes going on the weekly report. So I recommend you read that as well, with all the trends and targets there. And we're seeing things like coal breaking out, and really, really interesting. So let's take a look at what's going on in the main markets for the week. So we've got the dollar just falling slightly. We are in short-term bearish territory. Remembering this is my daily, my weekly long-term chart, my daily medium-term chart, and my short-term 60-minute chart with the corresponding point and figure targets. So at a glance, we can just see what's going on. So the dollar is looking weaker for the week ahead, and that means that the euro is therefore looking stronger, and we're seeing that kicking higher above the cloud. Of course, medium and long term, we're still in downtrends for the euro, but this week we're going to see potentially a counter trend move. That also means that sterling is looking stronger against the dollar on that shorter term chart, and again against the euro. We're seeing sterling actually just struggling on that medium-term chart, and we've just ticking down into bearish territory again. New targets kicking in this morning. So if you're trading currencies, you really want to be looking at these point and figure targets. In fact, if you're trading anything, in Bitcoin, we're sitting at 21,450. So again, still in bearish territory. Recovering a little bit on the short term, some speculators picking up, but the reality is we've got some big downside targets there now. The S&P 500 had a strong finish on Friday, up 3%, so we've bounced on the weekly cloud, right on support on the lagging line there, but of course the medium-term trend is still bearish, and we haven't quite got back above the cloud on the short-term chart. The Nasdaq is looking weaker, and we are just seeing here we actually have gone below the cloud on the lagging line and are now testing it from below. So not looking great. And of course, we've still got these downside targets. So the markets still have this bearish action, but we are just seeing some short-term bargain hunting. We've got the futures up about 0.5% today, so that looks like the market will hold those gains. And the VIX volatility is pulled back into the high 20s, so the markets are less fearful than they were. The fear index of about 30 is what we really watch for. The UK market, we see the FTSE future up 0.6%, so that's recovering back into short-term bullish territory. The DAX in Germany up 1%, so that's looking better this morning, but again, still in these short and medium-term downtrends, and we have gone through the clouds. So this is just counter-trend moves. The overall market picture is one of bearishness. Looking at Japan, we're up 1% there. The Hang Seng was up 2%. India up 1%, and the Sensex there in India just up actually was 0.75%. But again, this market rolling over with downside targets, so unlikely to buck the trend. Aussie market was up 2%. I noticed my Aussie stocks did well yesterday overnight. So we're seeing here a move higher there as well. We'll look at the energy mix in a minute. We've got wheat up 1.5%, having really fallen back in recent weeks, and we are in this medium-term bearish and short-term bearish, but the long-term trend is still bullish. Looking at corn, we're pulled back here as well, so that's quite interesting that we're seeing the corn price just bearish on that short-term chart. The big news, of course, is that the US and the UK are banning Russian gold. So imports of Russian gold will be banned, and that's helped the gold price a little bit this morning. and we are back into short-term bullish territory above the cloud. But we do have downside targets hanging over us here on the shorter term charts. The long-term picture is still one of holding that bullish trend. Silver has actually benefited more from that, and we're seeing precious metals just generally rising today. Silver up 1.85%, and looking at palladium up 3%. Russia, the major producer there, of course, and so we're seeing the precious metals running on that news. Copper is still a little bit of a concern. Global demand, this is one of the best measures for global demand in terms of industrial metals, and we are just ticking down here. Got downside targets, so this is really just showing the demand aspect. Looking at US 10-year yields, we're sitting at 3.17%. We did pull back from 3.5%, but we've still got these big upside targets. Keep an eye on those on your charts. Looking at the energy mix now, Brent crude, we're bullish for the week here on Brent crude. We are just seeing here this testing the cloud and finding support with the price, so that's quite good news. We've got a lot of upside targets here. Just watch for the 1 minute charts. If you're trading crude, you need to keep an eye on those. The nat gas price, we're bearish out to clients this week, and today just falling lower, and we've got these downside targets. Ever since that Freeport incident, we've been looking lower there. Coal, we're seeing here on the coal chart that we are breaking higher, so that's really quite significant there, that we're breaking higher. Good upside targets to aim for in the coal. Notice how this one, 272, is now nearly met. We've got a little bit further to go to get there, but that was given way back at in the 230s. Emissions, it's really about breaking out of this 80-85 range. We're seeing this converging pattern going on, showing up quite clearly in the 60-minute chart. We've got targets in either direction. It's when we get a preponderance of targets in one direction that we'll be able to call emissions, but for the moment it's neutral, and this 80-85 range is really sticky. TTF is up this morning 2%, and we're really seeing a decoupling on gas. In fact, we went out to clients on the daily call this morning in giving different calls, different targets for MBP and TTF, and that's really unusual that we'd be calling those differently. But the reality is TTF is looking bullish, UK MBP is looking bearish, so that's unusual. That won't last for long. Normally they move quite in lockstep together, but the reality is at the moment is they are decoupling. German power looking very bullish still, above 250. That break to above 250 was really key. We gave the target to 272 for our clients, 262, so that's where we sort of got to. We've got new upside targets, some really big ones, and that 266 target is really what we're looking at on the 1%, on the 0.5% chart, and an even bigger one there, so that's quite key. And we're also seeing other power markets moving in line, and again in our weekly report we've covered all the power markets for the week, so that's going to be quite key. Keep an eye out also for our monthly global markets report this week for July, and also our European gas and power all markets report out on Wednesday as well to clients. So that's it for today. Energy mix is really quite interesting. Remember to get The Economist and have a read of this article. Really good. Until tomorrow, happy charting. See you then.